This is a new version of the workflow generator. As you can see, this is now a SaaS version, and I'm also converting the ecosystem to a SaaS version. You can see here we have all our brand intelligence, the audit, the content generation. I want to show you this new tool because this is a way to get an n8n workflow done pretty easily. Let's see if I can get something that's okay. Expense report to accounting, right? I wanted to come up with an easier way for people new to n8n, people experienced with n8n, and anyone who wants to build a personal n8n workflow or something for work doesn't have to come and have to spend too much time trying to deal with Docker for shorten the time to get an actual workflow ready for your specific use case. That was the goal, and that is the goal with this tool. I have a bunch of sample ideas to cycle through, and it'll analyze this. And the way I built it is it actually is the same process that I would go through when I'm trying to build a workflow. Right. So the idea is expense reports to accounting. This is kind of how the AI thought about this workflow. Here are the things that would need to be put in place, the type of trigger. Here we want to do a webhook trigger. Maybe we'll just set it for a manual trigger for now. Here are the actual steps to execute that workflow. And here's some other information on where is this going to, how do you want to handle errors, etc. So all of this you can regenerate if you need it, or you can actually edit it yourself. You can add additional steps if you wanted to, but let's just go for demo purposes, keep going. Here is the incoming JSON and the output that you want. If you have specifics that you already know about, you can define that, or you can just let the AI figure it out for you, right? So this is more if you have input outputs very specifically. So for example, this may not be the output payload you need. If you already have a specific output you already know about, you can put this in here. And I think by doing the input output definition, you get a better workflow output, right? And then also for integrations, you can let the AI pick it, or if you have very specific integrations that you know you need to integrate with, then you can define all that here as well. And then once that's done, you say, okay, cool, here's the configuration we're going to generate, and boom. Once you hit this, it's now going to give you the JSON file, which you can download and then just import into n8n, and that's it.
You're ridiculous. This is insane.
So first off, like you took the words out of my head. Ridiculous is the absolute word I was thinking of, because it takes everything I've been trying to sort of map out in my head or in Notion, and literally just puts it right in front of me, and then it gives me the option to choose like I think the original trigger was like a webhook, but I immediately asked myself the question, but what if not manual, but what if I want something else like an trigger, and then you hit I was like, oh, okay, well that solves that question.
Yes. So Tony, this is based on me going through hundreds of workflows and wanting, it's more for myself too, right? If I can now download this and bring it into n8n and have it maybe, I don't know, maybe it's even 50% of the way, but my experience has been that this can get you 70, 80, 90% of the way there. And now you're spending a couple hours fine tuning and finalizing versus building one by one and not quite understanding what other nodes might be available to make it easier for you, how to set up error handling, should I set up retries for each node, and so on and so forth. All of these details that I think come from working with n8n and understanding what features and capabilities are within each node, but that's just a lot of time that a lot of us don't have, right? And so I'm trying to shortcut that in a wizard format so that anyone can come in and get most of the way there and not have to have that steep learning curve just to install n8n, but know what various nodes there are and things like that. And this is the result. I went ahead and downloaded this JSON file here, or JSON file, however you like to pronounce that. And I did import it into n8n, as you guys can see here. This is the expense report processing. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 nodes. Initially, this was set up like this, so a little bit buggy there, not too difficult. I do think that when you're testing, you'd want to manually trigger this flow. And then when you're actually ready to go live, you'd want to keep this live and then publish the tool as well. The other thing I noticed that was in here with these two red triangles, there was no actual text here. I'd also turned this into an expression so that it can actually pull the information. The credentials are not going to be set up yet. That's something you'd have to do, and that's not something the builder is going to be able to do for you. And again, in this one, the text as well as the expression wasn't set properly. But other than that, pretty good job. It wrote all the code, making some assumptions on what the incoming data will look like, and then it formatted it so that the output had a certain structure. And this is where I think if you did not define your input and output, then the AI is going to just make some assumptions and build it for you. And so you definitely would want to provide that and maybe spend a little bit of time with ChatGPT or Claude modifying this based on your actual data payloads. Okay, let's keep moving on. If you have a PRD that is more robust, put it in here, right? And then it'll think through it and give you, well, what are you actually trying to do, right? And so a lot of customization can happen because maybe the AI missed a step or you wanted an extra step, right? The point being that once the AI has done its work, you can actually further refine this and customize it. And then this part, newer folks, it may or may not be relevant, but if you really, again, if you know what your incoming, outgoing data payload looks like and are aware of that, and you can put that in here, that means the workflow will be even further along when it's generated.
Yeah, like if you want to spit something out to a form, then it has to be formatted in a certain way. You can define that there.
Yeah, and so let's say, Tony, it has to go back into some API that you're dealing with, right? Some third-party API. Maybe for me, let's say it's HubSpot. I want to send data back to HubSpot. HubSpot has a very specific JSON format for how to send data to its API, right? So every API will have a certain structure to that data payload that it is expecting. And so that's really what this part of it is that, hey, I need this structure for the JSON that you output from the workflow, because I need to send this data back to whatever third party or some sort of a REST API that has a very specific structure that it is expecting. And so even the incoming data, if you can define that and know that, hey, my output is X, Y, and Z, so my input needs to be A, B, C, right? So that the workflow in the middle can do what it does and make sure that I get X, Y, Z. Does that make sense? And so that's what this part of it is, because this is a factor that I think a lot of people miss when creating workflows is input and output. To me, that's even more important, because then the workflow actually knows what has to occur to go from input to output. Yeah. So that's why this exists. And then all the other things in terms of what other services need to be tapped into. Do you need an AI agent, or is this more just pure automation in the sense that it's a linear processing of your input so that we can get to output? But I think in most instances, we are finding that we will need some sort of an AI agent to do some of that work for us. And this is where you can define specific integrations that your output needs to have. And then ultimately, it's going to create the JSON file. That's what I want to quickly show you guys. Thanks for that feedback. I'm hoping that I get similar reactions once I start introducing this to the broader AI automation market. My common theme for this year is going to be make it easy, make it easier to use, because I don't want people spending a week just trying to get it installed. Like, that just wasn't the right way to get things done. So I'm just trying to make it a lot easier for everyone to get the benefits of all of these amazing things that we're able to do with AI and automation, but not have to spend too much time just trying to get it installed and figured out. All right, well, good to see you both again. We'll see you next Wednesday. Good luck on your journey for this week. Yes, have a good day. Bye-bye.